All right. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Wednesday evening Inner Circle Live session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage, for this evening, covering for my brother, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody is doing well today. Some big news came out, right? We'll cover this evening, we'll cover dollar pairs. We'll take a look to see and get a feel for what Fed Chair Powell discussed in his news conference. We'll take a look at some yen crosses in preparation for the Japan rate statement that's coming out this evening as well. And if we have some time left over, we'll take some pair requests. All right. So drop me one in the chat if you can hear me okay. Maybe. All right, cool deal. So let's hop over to Trade and Economics, take a look at some articles real quick, and then we will dive into the charts. So as expected, right? Fed hikes key rates by 75 basis points for the third time. Federal Reserve raised target range for the federal funds rate by another 75 basis points to 3 to 3.25%. During its September meeting, the fifth consecutive rate hike, pushing borrowing costs to its highest since 2008. Take a look at that. Yeah, since 2008. The central bank also signaled larger increases to come in new projections showing its policy rate reaching 4.4% by the end of this year. All right, so that's another at least 1.25-ish. So another at least 125 basis points, right? And then topping out at 4.6% in 2023. Okay, so that's one article. Then U.S. stock futures fell on Thursday after Federal Reserve delivered another large interest rate hike, while investors assess Fed Chair Powell's discussion on the outlook for rates and the economy. All your indices were down. The Dow and S&P 500 declined 1.7%, while the Nasdaq Composite tumbled 1.8% as the Fed delivered its third straight 75 basis point hike, signaling further increases. Fed officials also indicated their intention to keep raising rates until the funds level hit a terminal rate or endpoint of 4.6% by 2023. Moreover, they see GDP growth slowing to 0.2% for 2022, then rising slightly in the following years to a long-term rate of 1.8%. So that's what the statement said. That's how everything came out. Now, his tone was extremely firm and extremely hawkish, right? He stated that they're going to stay the course, and they're going to do everything necessary to get the inflation down to that 2 to 3% range. Their projections have them getting there on the rate that they're on. However, they will ensure that they take data into account and make adjustments where necessary to ensure that inflation is coming down. They try to get into changes words and they talked about recession and a soft landing. They brought that back up. And he said, at the end of the day, we understand that this could be difficult for a lot of people. But we have to get inflation down to ensure that we can have another 10 years or so of growth as we have had over the past 10 to 12 years or so. So he was very firm in his language. And didn't signal any slowing down anytime soon. So that pushed the dollar in a very, very strong way. So some of those retracements that we're looking to see if we didn't quite get them. So we'll take a look at the DXY to see what's happening there, right? DXY hits 20-year high. Dollar index surges to as high as 111.5 on Wednesday. New highs since June of 2002 after benchmark rate increased. All right. So That's there. Japanese shares drop ahead of BOJ decision. Nikkei 225 index dropped 1% toward 27,000, while broader top index tumbled 0.8% to 1,904 on Thursday, hitting their lowest levels in over 2 months and tracking losses on Wall Street as U.S. Federal Reserve delivered another large interest rate hike, signaling further interest rate increases ahead. Investors are also looking ahead to the Bank of Japan's policy decision, where it is expected to keep rates at an ultra-low level and maintain its yield curve control policy to support a fragile economic recovery. Meanwhile, Japan's central bank continues to face pressures from a widening policy divergence with the U.S. And a rapidly falling yen. Okay, so that divergence is still happening, but Bank of Japan is set to stay their course. Okay, so those are the big things on the day. Any questions from that fundamental perspective? Nope. Cool deal, right? So this is the calendar, right? Looking at this monetary policy statement coming sometime this evening. It could come before the end of the session. It may come after, okay? So it's always tentative on the time. Then tomorrow morning, we got the Swissy, right? Coming at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That could give some volatility to the Swiss pairs. And then we have Bank of England coming in at 7 a.m., right? During our pre-New York session. So we'll be prepared for that as well, okay? So let's dive into some charts, right? We'll take a look at the DXY first, okay? So on the DXY, I want to zoom out so we get some perspective on where we are. We've been talking about these extreme levels on multiple currency pairs, right? All-time lows, all-time highs. We're coming into an all-time high on the DXY, right? We haven't been here since 2002, and we're headed there again, right? This all-time high. So we're looking at things earlier today. We're sitting at this level, and we got this long push, right? Headed to this next weekly level and this all-time high sitting here, right? This is a weekly chart, and on this weekly chart, we hit a D extension. Okay, we hit the D extension here on the break of this daily level, and we're continuing to push higher. Okay, so we're overextended on the weekly time frame. Okay, so as we drop down to the daily time frame, and we zoom out, and we run our fib to the upside here. From a daily time frame perspective, we hit the D extension. We got a new swing high to form, so we got a new fib here on the daily, and we're pushing to the 118, 127 zone. Haven't gotten a retracement at all, okay? This 118, 127 zone sits at the all-time high, okay? So what this says is, yeah, we got this weekly level coming in here, but we could definitely be pushing to create some new highs on the DXY, right? So being aware of where we are historically, right? These are times that legit we have not seen. We talked about this a little bit this morning, but these are really, really interesting and unprecedented times that we're living through, right? And that we're trading through. So being aware of that, coming into these high levels, we want to be aware that we could start to see some consolidation and some reactions at these levels if things start to kind of slow down a little bit, just from a technical perspective. Okay. So we'll see once we get up here if we start to get some sideways movement, right? We could get some immediate reactions and retracements as we move through the rest of the month. So we'll see. We'll see as the weeks keep pressing on. Okay. So from a 4-hour perspective, from a 4-hour perspective, right? We zoom out here. And we run our fibs from here. And this is the look we'll stay on, or I'll keep my charts on this 4-hour look. because this is going to get interesting here at this all-time high, right? All-time high is a 118 and 127 on the daily time frame off a shallow retracement. So 118 and 127 zone on the 4, but we've gotten a 382 retracement already. Okay, we got a D extension here quite a ways away. So if things continue to be extremely volatile and hawkish for the dollar, and we see these levels just get blown through, right, we'll look for a retracement and a retest, and then a continuation to this 4-hour D extension. Okay, so we'll watch and see how things respond at this weekly level, but also then once we get up here to this all-time high on the DXY. Okay, so that's where we sit there, and that's the correlation, right? This is that push. This morning we talked about we're sitting right here at this high. We said if we stay above, if we closed above, and this candle did not break back below, we could see this thing rise, and that's what it's doing. Right, it's rising. So this weekly level, and then the all-time high will be our next checkpoints. Okay. Questions on the DXY?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, Miss Camilla, what's up?
Hey. Okay, so if the dollar continues to rise, does that mean that all my dollar pairs are going to consolidate? I'm trying to correlate it with my dollar pairs. Yep. And also, does it matter if the dollar is first in the pair or last in the pair? Go ahead.
Right. So it'll move all of your dollar pairs will move in favor of the dollar. So if the dollar is the primary currency or listed first, right, you'll see those move to the upside. Right, your dollar CAD, your dollar yen, your dollar Swiss, you'll see those press to the upside. If the dollar is the counter currency, you'll see those press to the downside in favor of the dollar. Right. Okay. So ultimately they'll all be moving in favor of the dollar, be it up or down, depending on if it's the primary currency or the counter currency.
Okay.
Okay.
So when it consolidates, does the pair consolidate as well?
It can, yes. Okay. Yes, it definitely can. Sometimes with like the dollar yen, you may not see the consolidation because that one kind of bounces back and forth a little bit. But you can likely see it unless you have something fundamentally happening with one of the other currencies. Like tomorrow we have the rate statement coming out for the Bank of England, right? So if there is any consolidation, there could be a catalyst for that one to move in one direction or the other. Based off of how that rate statement comes out. Same thing with the Swiss in the morning. So those could still continue moving in favor of the dollar, but that's all going to be dependent on the data that comes out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so just keep in mind, the dollar is the world's reserve currency. So in most cases, wherever the dollar moves, everything else will too. Right. So a lot of times, like leading up to these major news events, you'll see a lot of consolidation or the market just moving slow. Right. And that's because they're waiting on the data coming out for the dollar, which then kind of paves the way for everything else. Right.
How long after the news? I think you talked about this before, but how long after the news comes out do you see? I mean, I saw a real spike in a few pairs today, but I don't know if it correlated. But how long after the news comes out do you usually see a reaction?
That time frame varies. The time frame varies. Sometimes you can see immediate reactions, like we did today, as the statement came out, and then as the press conference happened, you saw a lot of bouncing back and forth. But there's sometimes there's a delayed reaction. So it's just about being patient and really allowing the market to push price in whatever direction it's going to go, and then waiting for it to meet your rules. I know it's a really vague answer, but it's hard to give a set time frame to it because it varies so much, because we don't know how the investors are going to respond to the data, right? So sometimes they have to read through the statement to see what it says, and then they'll respond. Sometimes they already have things priced in, like Benny talked about last night, where they've already put their orders in whatever direction they anticipated the data being, right? So for instance, everybody was expecting a 75 basis point hike. And if it was already priced in, you would have seen the market not really move much at all.
When you say priced in, what do you mean?
Meaning they've already put their orders in, and they've already kind of projected where the market is going to go, and they've put their orders in going in that direction.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay.
Because like you're saying they've already put it in versus waiting to the news for the news to come out and then putting it in.
Correct.
Yeah, I got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
And a lot of times you're welcome. A lot of times there's a lot of emotional reactions, right? So when we look at like the euro dollar and the pound dollar, you'll see some large spikes back and forth. And that's a lot of, ultimately there's a battle going on, right? But it's also a lot of emotion that's happening at the same time, right? And you'll see that also happen during those news conferences where they're really analyzing the words that are chosen. And when certain words are used, you'll see the market push in one direction. And when other words are used, you'll see the market push in a different direction, depending on the question, right? So that's why those news conferences are important too, just to wait for all of that to happen to see where the market then starts to kind of slow down and actually start to move in a direction.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? Cool deal. All right. So let's take a look at the dollar CAD. So this morning we're looking at this dollar CAD. We said, hey, we're at this 118, 127 zone. We want to see if we get price to turn over and give us a retracement. Well, with the dollar pushing to the upside, right? The DXY, you saw this break through all three levels. And now we're headed to the D extension in this next level of 136. Okay. So if we zoom out here, again, just to get perspective on where we are, we haven't been here since 2000, right? From a daily perspective, July 2000, right? Pandemic time. Okay. And then we saw this big move to the downside. So we got a lot happening here. Our next level is at 136. So we broke these levels, strong move to the upside. At some point, we'll expect to get a retracement. Okay. We're overextended on this daily time frame, pushing to the upside, right? So we're going to get a retracement at some point. It's just about being patient and allowing it to happen. So this is a key zone that we broke through, 2 weekly levels and a daily level. So we'll likely get at some point a retracement, come back to retest, and then we'll look for a continuation to the upside in favor of the dollar. Okay. So that's the daily perspective here. Okay. We're pushing strong. So back to the 4, and we're there, right? So we hit the D extension on the 4 hour. We got a next resistance level here. So we'll wait to see this thing turn over and give us a swing high, and then we can look to play this retracement coming back down whenever that occurs. Okay, so be patient on this. Allow the market and the emotion to continue doing what it does, right? And then we'll look for that retracement when it gives it to us. Shauna, what's up? All right. So we're pressing, moving strong to the upside there. Okay. On the 1, this is what we're looking like. We hit a D extension on the 1 hour as well. Okay. Strong pushes to the upside. So we'll sit and we'll be patient and wait for that swing high. Okay. But this thing just took off with the news, right? Took off with the news. Okay. Any questions on the dollar CAD? No. All right.
No.
Thank you. Dollar yen. So now here we have some indecision, right? So on this dollar yen, because we have rate statement for the yen coming out tonight, but we also, this dollar yen is always interesting because the dollar plays as a safe haven a lot of times, and you also have the yen, which also plays as a safe haven a lot of times. So in this scenario, right, we're getting this consolidation. Okay, this is one of the pairs where I said it could be a little different because you have two currencies that could be a safe haven currency at the same time. So we're still getting a sideways push here. So depending on how the rate statement comes out tonight for the Bank of Japan, that could be the catalyst for this to push higher. Or if the Bank of Japan comes in and surprises folks and changes things, or if they have a more of a hawkish tone, we could see a reaction back to the downside here, right? So there's still some indecision here because both of these are currently being used as a safe haven for investors at the moment, okay? So this is one that we're going to have to sit and be patient with and see if this daily level holds. If it does, we could see this thing push to the downside. If it does not, we could see it rise to at least that 118, 127 zone and that 147 level. So, right, and we also got to keep in the back of our mind, right, the Bank of Japan is watching things to ensure that they don't see any major spikes in one direction or the other, right? Because they also talked about that intervention thing, right? So I want to keep that in the back of our minds as well with this dollar yen play, okay? So as we drop to the 4, we're still sitting in that 118, 127 zone that we talked about this morning, right? We're just pushing sideways. This was a spike from earlier during that news conference, but we just settled in sideways still. Okay, so there is potential for this to retest this level and then give us a push back to the downside. Okay, so be patient here and see how investors respond to the rate statement coming out of Japan. Right, but keep your eyes on this one. We could have some action if we get that break to the downside. Okay. If it pushes to the upside, allow it to run to the D extension, and then we'll look to see if any opportunities presents itself around this 147 level. Okay, we got the D extension on the 1 hour here, and that's where we'll be headed if we break through this high that we've struggled at so far. Okay, so on this one, again, be patient and see how the market responds to that rate statement at this daily level. Okay. Questions on this dollar yen? Nope. Cool deal. Dollar Swissy. Bounce back. So here's another one where we didn't get a retracement, but we also have another rate statement coming out relatively soon, right, in the morning. But we are making higher highs and higher lows, trying to press to the upside. But we've been in this consolidation for a little bit now, right? Just pushing sideways here. So that's where we sit here, depending on how the Swiss National Bank comes out in the morning, right? That'll give us a catalyst in one direction or the other. If they come out relatively dovish, right, we could see this thing go to the upside. Also, if they come out as expected, I believe they're expected to increase by 75 basis points. We could still see this press to the upside, as that could have been priced in already, already taken into account with investors, especially as things are playing with the dollar as well. Okay, so we'll watch that one as things move through the morning. Okay, so as we bounce back here to the 4, right, this is our fib. We got a 50% retracement off this move to the upside, and this is that sideways push matching the extension here. So we could see this trickle up even through the night, get to that D extension, and then in the morning we could see a reaction in one direction or the other. Okay, and that reaction could bring us back to at least retest this daily level, and then ultimately giving way for the dollar to continue to press to the upside. Okay, so another one to be patient on, still pushing sideways. Tomorrow morning will give us more of an indication on where this pair is headed. Okay, so nothing doing there. Just keep your eyes peeled in the morning on where we sit. Okay, so I'll stay here on the 4 hour on this one. Any questions on this? No. Cool deal. Let's take a look at the Aussie dollar. So on this Aussie dollar, we see we broke this level, right? We talked about it. We said it was pressing down this morning. We said if we close strongly below, we're going to continue to head to the downside. And that's what happened. We had a strong close, strong push in favor of the dollar, and we're continuing to run. We never got that retracement we're looking for to give us that high price to re-enter this or add to the trade, pressing to the downside. So headed to this D extension, okay, at 64,389. 618 retracement off the daily. Long term, we're headed there. Maybe once we get to this daily support level, we could potentially get a pullback of some sort. But all intents and purposes, the extension is in sight sometime in the near future. Okay. So as we drop to the 4, this is what that looked like. We hit the 4-hour D extension. Okay. Yeah, we hit the 4-hour D extension here. We also got a 1-hour D extension in the zone as well, but we didn't slow up. Right. We had this spike potentially to the upside, right? Emotional reaction, and then we just fell back to the downside. Okay. So we're headed south. We'll wait to see if we get a swing low at some point to give us a retracement to come back and retest this weekly level. But we're on the go to the downside now. Okay. So we'll have to be patient and allow this to finish out to then give us an opportunity on a high price. Okay. So as we drop to the 1, you see we never broke above the cloud. Never broke back above the cloud. Stayed down. Okay. 118, 127 zone here. 1-hour D extension in line with this daily support. Right. We may not get this 118, 127 retracement here. Right. This could continue to fall and get to this D extension before we get a pullback. Right. So don't try to catch it as it's falling. Wait for it to settle out. If it does, and then wait for those confirmations on that retracement to the upside. Okay. So allow this one to continue to run as long as it's going to, right? If you're in it short, continue to manage your trade, protect your profits, but allow this thing to run as far as it's going to run, right? Stays below the cloud or below your trend line, just allow it to go. Okay. So we'll wait to see if it settles out here or if we get another push to that daily support level. Okay. Questions on the Aussie dollar? Cool deal. These euro dollar, right? This one fell hard too. Okay. That's your 1-hour look. We never got this bounce off this support. We broke through it, right? And we didn't even get a pullback. We just headed south. We also broke through this weekly support level as well. Okay. So let's bounce back. Let's take a look at things. So we had a weekly support level here, right? From a daily perspective. Why did I do that? Hold on. Take that back to the daily. Messed that up. I apologize, guys. So weekly, this is our weekly look, right? AB boundary, we got a 50% retracement and we're pressing down, right? Strong bearish move. We're breaking through this weekly support level. Red line is the weekly D extension, okay? 93 cents. We got 96 cents coming in before that, but we're headed to the downside. At some point, this weekly D extension could get hit, okay? Could get hit. So back to the daily here, right? We're headed south. We got our daily D extension down here. This is that weekly D extension here. Okay. Move it. This is the weekly D extension here. So we got that 382 retracement, excuse me. And we're headed down, right? Strong bearish close below this weekly level on the daily time frame. That's confirmation that we're going to continue to ride for a little bit. Okay. 96.85 is in sight. That'll be a next level where we could potentially get a small pullback once we get there. Okay. Once we get there. But again, allow it to fall, allow it to do its thing, right? Don't try to anticipate it. Don't try to catch it. On the 4 hour, you got a similar look. Okay, similar look. The extension is below this weekly support at this monthly level at 96,062. Okay, so we'll allow this to move down, settle out wherever it does, and give us a pullback. Once we get a high price, we can then look for potential continuation lower there. Okay, now back to our one. I'll mess that up. I'm gonna have to clear this out. See something here. There we go. All right. So, yep, those fibs got taken out to the upside. So here on the one, right, we got this pullback here to a 382 level. And this is that break. This is that break. This is that emotional response I was talking about earlier. During the news conference, you saw this bounce back and forth, right? And then we finally turned over and pressed to the downside. So we hit the D extension here on the one, right? We'll see at what point do we get a new AB boundary and then a retracement to retest this weekly level. Okay. So down, just like the rest of them, down, down, and down. Okay. Put your cloud on. We're at that level, never broke back above and just fell off. Okay. It's the euro dollar. And the pound dollar, similar look. This is your 1 hour. Right? Push down, we got to the D extension. We didn't get a retracement. So this is one to watch coming into the morning. Okay. Coming into the morning because we're at a 118, 127 zone. Okay. So Camilla, right? Your question about will it always move in favor? So the morning will be interesting. Okay. So we'll bounce back to the daily and look at this from a higher time frame. You're coming into a daily D extension, right? You broke through a key monthly level here, right? All-time low, right? So we're making new lows now, right? Historically speaking, it's interesting time. So new lows coming into a daily D extension. Okay. Daily D extension there on your 4 hour. You got your 118, 127 zone coming into play here, right at that daily D extension. Okay. So we want to watch this to see if we get a reaction in the morning, right? Depending on how that rate statement comes out. If the Bank of England comes out a little bit hawkish, right? We're anticipating 75 basis points, 50 basis points coming out of the Bank of England, right? So if they come out more hawkish than that, right? If they come out at 75, we could see a reaction here. Okay. We could see a reaction and a pullback occur. It may not go back above this monthly level, but it could give us a pullback nonetheless. So in the 1 hour, we may have an opportunity. We'll see, play that, right? 80-20 scenario on the one. Okay. But key zone for us to keep in mind. Right? So our 118, 127 on the 1 hour. Okay. So we could potentially play this 80-20 back to the 382 on the 1 hour. Okay. We see how this is aligning from the higher time frame, this being a key level for us. You guys follow me here? Okay.
Yes.
Cool deal. So we're going to want to watch this once we get this last push to the downside, get to that daily D extension. Okay. So write this one down as one to watch come the morning. Okay. We'll wait for our confirmations. Add the cloud on to see where we sit. Right. Still pressing down. So we'll see what happens there. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. Questions on this pound dollar?
Hey Ryan.
It's JC. What's up? How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. With a trend line on that, how I guess what would be too aggressive for a trend line on this?
Yep. So let's we'll run them.
Okay.
Trend line coming here. Take that out now. Let's see. Trend line there. Run another. Come in there. I would probably sit with this one here. Because
Okay.
we could start to get this thing we could start to see this push sideways. Right?
Okay.
And slowly make its way down. Right. So if we see that choppy movement, right, could start to do something like that as it makes its way down, and then see if we get that break.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you did run a tighter one, I would say drop down to your 15, but you could run another coming like this.
I was thinking about going down to the 15, but I was like, I don't know if I want to risk being stopped out.
Yeah. And two, right? Because we don't have any support levels below this. The other thing would, for me, right, looking for an entry on this one, is if you did go down to the 15, waiting on that daily level, that daily D extension to get hit.
Okay.
And then waiting on a swing low to form.
Okay.
And then you can place your stop just below, right, that D extension and that swing low.
Okay.
Right. So that'll give you a support level to play from.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So that'll be one for us to keep our eyes on there. Okay. Any questions on Nzd Dollar? Let me take a look at that one. Can't forget it. Nzd Dollar. Down. All right. Down. We'll bounce back to the daily. Makes sense though, right? We got a 382 and we're pressing to the downside. All-time low here at 54,678. And we said, hey, if we break below this, we could be on the run. We broke below and we're headed there. Didn't get the pullback that we would have liked to see. Okay. So now we're on the run to the downside. We don't have any other level sitting in here to slow us down. Right? We did have one here. Let's see where that falls. Breaking through that one as well. Right? So we've broken through all of our support levels from a higher time frame. Okay. Yep. No other support levels until 54. Okay. So if this daily candle closes below, we'll look for this thing just to continue to fall to the matching D extension and the all-time low. Okay. So that's the daily look on the 4. More of the same. On the 4, we've hit the D extension, right? So to be, do we continue to press down? Do we stall, get a swing low, and then a push to a 118, 127 zone, right? Those are all the questions that we can start to ask and start to wait to see, right? Wait for that swing low to form wherever it does, right? If it pushes down further and then gives us a swing low, right? We'll see that daily D extension come into play, right? And we'll start to get some confluence there, okay? But we'll wait and allow that to form on its own. Down to the 1. We'll run our fib off the high. headed to the D extension on the 1. Didn't get that retracement there like we would have liked. We're headed there. Okay. We're headed there. So patience on all these dollar pairs. Any questions on any of them? Clean and clear. All right, they're on the run. If anybody's in any of these to the downside, kudos to you. Allow them to continue to run, man. Allow them to continue to run. So we'll take a look at some of these yen crosses. We'll get through as many as we can. That rate statement coming up. So this Aussie yen, come back to the weekly time frame, right? We haven't gotten a 382 on the weekly time frame yet. We're looking to see, okay, is this going to push up and break through these levels to get to this 118, 127 zone and this 102 level, or will we get a turnover? And lo and behold, we got price to turn over. Okay, so we're pressing back down to the downside. From a weekly perspective, next level is 90.51. Okay, 90.51. I don't know if anybody is in this to the downside, but if you are, you got a little ways to go, right? 93 cents will come in as another kind of key level of support. We got some smaller ones here that we're coming into, right? Support level here. Swing low. Okay. And then our next one is here. So we'll drop this down to the lower time frame. Also, we break through this daily level, right? We'll be headed to 93 cents. And that'll be the next level that we take a look at. We had somewhat of a time breaking through it there, but it's also served as resistance in the past as well. Okay. So pushing down, drop to the 4, right? So my bias on this one is short, right? With my bias being short, I'm running the fib from the top down. Okay. On the 4, I'm running the fib from the top down. We got the rejection, and now we're running. Okay. Headed to the D extension here at 94, 391. We got a 382 retracement on this 4-hour fib. Okay. Whoops. Not sure what that was. But pressing down. Okay. So we'll see how the market responds here, but I'll look for that to be broken at some point, right? Could be later on tonight with Sean, the dollar's on a mission for sure. Definitely on a mission, right? And we could see it continue to rise. Continue to rise. These yens too. These yens too, right? So we'll wait to see what happens at this 94,767 level, right? But I'll be looking to see that level get broken, get a retest, and then a continuation. That's your 4-hour D extension. I'd love for price to get down here to this 90.51 level, right? So if we break that, we got a little ways to go. Okay, got a little ways to go. So that's your 4. Also on your 4, right, you see that for anybody that uses the cloud on the 4-hour time frame, the higher time frames, we broke the cloud and we got the lagging span to break through as well, right? And we're headed down. We're headed down. So that's what that is. And then here on the 1, right, headed to the D extension in line with this daily support level here off of a 618 retracement. Hovered in the cloud as a little retracement, consolidation, and we broke down to the downside. Okay, so we'll see how things respond here at this 94,767. See if we get a retracement, and then we'll look for a high price ultimately to continue short. Right, that's my bias on this one. So once that D extension is hit, and potentially that D extension on the 4, look for a pullback. For me, I'll look to add to this. But if you're not in it, right, we could get a pullback and a nice potential opportunity to get in short. Okay. So watch that one as it gets to the daily support level. Questions on this Aussie yen? Nope. All right. CAD yen. So I want to look at this monthly level. Look at this reaction. Not an all-time high yet, but this is the monthly resistance level. Look at this reaction. Strong reaction to this monthly level. Okay. If the month closes like this or bearish, I'm looking for some continuation to happen, right? Potentially then getting a new swing high on the monthly over the next couple months. Okay. Strong reaction here, right? This takes a lot of capital to pull this thing back down like that. Okay. So we get to the weekly. We hit a weekly D extension on that push up, and then we turned over and we're pressing down and we pressed back below that monthly level. Okay. So soon we'll have next week, in the next week, we'll have a swing high, right? Once, if that closes lower, then we'll have a new swing high on the weekly that will look like this. Okay. So we're pressing down, right? Next key level from a weekly perspective is 101, quite a ways away. But we got some strong bearish movement. Okay. Depending on how the Bank of Japan comes out, right? That could give us more of a catalyst to press to the downside, right? But we could also get a retracement in these yens as well. Okay, so we'll watch for that once that rate statement comes out and then the press conference tomorrow morning. Okay, down to the daily. On the daily, we hit the D extension as well, right? And we got this beautiful turnover and we're pressing down. Okay, so this fib hasn't popped in yet, but this is our new fib. That's the lowest point. That's our new fib on the daily time frame. Okay. I got the trend lines running to the upside. I know it looks a little messy, but bear with me. Whoops. There. Okay. So that's our new fib on the daily time frame. And we broke trend line. And we're headed toward our middle trend line now in that 382 support level. Okay. So we're headed down. We'll see how the market responds at 105.48. Right. But we could be in for a retracement and then a continuation. Okay. So that's a daily look on the CAD yen. Take those out so we can see. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So as we drop to the 4, this one was a little bit back and forth because we had a retracement that did occur here. Okay. So we're running the fib to the upside. Oh, we cleared the D extension, right? So this is our new AB boundary here. My bad. New AB boundary here, and we're pressing to the downside, right? And that break back below, next level here. Okay, so 50% retracement. We'll see if we get a reaction here. Okay, we'll see if we get a reaction. But we this could still just be profit taking on the yen. I haven't heard about any real intervention yet, right? Any additional steps. We'll see what the rate statement has to say. But this all could be profit taking. Once we get to these lower levels, we could then look for, right, a catalyst to give us a buying opportunity, potentially to run this higher. So we'll see, right? We'll keep our eyes on the yens as they get to the low prices back into our zones, okay? So they were moving it to the 382. We dropped down to the 1. I ran the fib off the high here, coming down. We had a shallow retracement. We're pushing into this 118 and 127 zone, okay? So we'll see, depending on what happens later on tonight, if this gives us a pullback of any sort. Okay, we'll see if it gives us a pullback of any sort. Maybe it does, to come back and retest this high, and then see if we get a continuation to 105, right? At this daily level is where I'm really going to be looking for buying opportunities on this, right? Ms. Denise, glad to see you. Glad to see you.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
Doing well. Glad to see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll see if we get a slight reaction here in this 118, 127 zone. Okay. But I am looking for the ends to fall a little bit lower, at least to this caddy and at least to this 105 level. Right. So if we get a pullback to a high price, I'm gonna look to add to it to continue to the downside. So we'll watch it and see what we get through the rest of the week. Okay. Questions on this caddy? No. Okay. Cool deal. Euro yen. Turn back over, right? So here, daily time frame, right? We just barely missed that D extension. Never got a 382. Okay. We never got a 382. So this is going to be interesting to see, right? Because the euro has been relatively strong as of late. We're getting some pullbacks on it now, but we'll see what happens at these key levels. Okay, we broke strong bearish move back below this daily level, headed towards this weekly level at 141. Okay, so we're going to take this level by level, right? So if we break through this weekly level, then we'll look at the next weekly level. Okay, so I'm going to take this step by step, right? These are previous weekly levels, right, that I kept on my chart. They've been broken multiple times, but I want to see if they serve as any sort of support or consolidation here in the current time. This was a strong move to the upside. Took a lot to stop it, right? And then turn that thing back over, just like some of the other yen crosses, right? So I want to take this level by level because of how weak the yen has been. But also some of the strength that the euro has picked up as of late. Okay, so we'll watch this closely, take it step by step. Okay, but that's why those weekly levels are still in there. So we'll see what happens here at this weekly support, see if we get a reaction, and then see if it continues down or not. Okay, and we'll go level by level. So that's where we are, but we never got a 382 off that daily. So if we continue to break through these levels, right, as we get lower, we'll start to eye this 382 on the daily time frame. Okay. From a 4-hour perspective, right, it all came into a line. Shallow retracement, 118 to 127 zone. This is the retracement. Okay, that's the retracement. We also had a shallow crown that's playing out here, right? So we didn't get a deep retracement off this right tip. Right, came up a little short, but bang to the downside. Okay, so if we're playing the harmonic fib, that's what it is. 50% retracement. Matching the extension is down here at 140, right, which is 618 on this 4-hour. Okay, so this is where we could be headed if this crown completely plays out. Okay, 142.20. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind as we continue to move to the next level. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. So that's the 4-hour look, pressing to the downside. On the one, it's a closer look and a look at the cloud. Right, we had a nice retracement that happened here, only gave us a 382, and then we broke back down. 1-hour D extension in line with the 141. So we could get a reaction and then a continuation there, right? So we'll watch this level here and then see what happens at 141. Okay. That's the euro yen. Questions here?
Ryan, I got a question.
Yes. What's up, JC?
So I got a bull trend line break on this. And so when I'm playing the trend lines like that, would it help to run a bear trend line and then like enter on the the retest of the bear trend line going down.
Where you're running trend lines from the bottom up.
Yeah. And then I got a break after some like consolidation. And so like when I'm marking up my charts in that and I get there, I would just wonder like, okay, now do I start a trend line in the opposite direction after that trend line is broken?
Yeah. So that original break your trend line is going to give you that entry opportunity, right?
Mhm.
And then so from a trade management perspective, it's the way I look at it is as long as price stays below that trend line,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to continue shorting. If I get a strong break of the trend line, not a consolidated break, but a strong bullish break of the trend line, then I'll look to change my bias, right? So that to say, when you run your trend lines here,
Yeah.
right? Not sure which one
The one you
you
just did
had.
is
The one I just did. Okay.
Yep. So the middle one is the one that I got.
Bang, right? So you can do it one of two ways, right? On your entry, you can do it one of two ways, right? It broke but pulled right back above.
Mhm.
Actually, no, I cut off some wicks here. Here we go. Actually, have been like that off that wick there. So didn't really get a strong break here. This is where your break came. So you could have entered it here, right? You would have been a little bit of drawdown. So that's going to be something that you take a look at from a rules perspective. Do you take it off the break and place your stop above the high, right? One of the previous highs and allow it to go, or do you wait for the pullback and retest of the trend line and then again place your stop above the previous high, right? And then it's running to the downside. So now once the trend line gets broken, yeah, you can pull those out now because you know you got that break. That's your signal. And now it's I'm looking for this trade to continue to the downside.
Okay.
Until your bias changes. Right. So now we're looking at it like this. We're looking at this thing to continue to the downside. If your bias is bearish on the yen, right, you were looking for high prices to get short, right? So you could run it like that if you're going to play the counter trend move, or you don't have to run that one, right? If you're not going to take that counter trend play, you're just looking for the high price. You know you're going to get a pullback at some sort, right? So now we'll just be waiting for some action like this, right? Another push down to get to the D extension support level, and then see if we get something like this, come back, retest this daily, now resistance, and that downtrend line. That gives us a resistance level, high price. Now we can look to get short again.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on this euro yen? No? All right. I've skipped the Swiss yen, but let's look at it. This thing is doing its dance, man. Doing its dance. Monthly, new high. We broke through that level, trying to get a little bit of a reaction here. Okay. On the weekly, we pushed into that 118, 127 zone. And we're consolidating a little bit, still trying to press higher, but we haven't been able to fully push out of this zone yet. Okay. So we'll see how that moves. We'll see how that moves. Okay. So that's the weekly look. Down to the daily. We got this swing high to form on the daily, right? And now we're retracing a bit. Okay. Now we're retracing a bit. My bad. But on this daily time frame, we don't have a 382. Okay. We just barely missed that D extension. So watch this one. We talked about this earlier, right? We'll see how this retracement plays. We got that rate statement coming in the morning. Okay. We could potentially see, depending on what happens with the yen, we could potentially see this press up, get to that D extension fully, then give us a double top. Sorry about the movement here. Then give us a double top look. Right? So we're going to watch this one closely at this daily resistance level. Okay. If yen is dovish, Swissy is hawkish, could see a new high get created again. Right. So we'll play this by ear because again, we don't have any other highs to watch for. Okay. So this is all new territory for us. Okay. So this one's going to be another one that we just keep our eyes on and see how the market responds for us. Okay. So that's the daily look down to the 4. We're hovering right in that 118, 127 zone. Hovering right in that 118, 127 zone. Okay, it's that daily D extension there. So we'll see if we get this double top action to happen. Right? Get that and swing how to form. Be a beautiful opportunity to then ride that thing short, at least to the 3 hour, to the 4 hour 38.2, which is in line with that monthly level that we just broke. Okay. You guys follow me on that? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool deal. And then here on the 1, it's just bouncing a little bit, right? So the cleaner look is on the 4 hour, because you got your 118 and 127 zone that we're looking to play through. Okay. So I would stick here and see how this plays out. See if we get that double top action. Okay. You can even bring this down to the 1 if you want to. But I like this cleaner look better. It's less noise to have to work through. Okay. Questions on the Swiss yen? Sweet. And then this pound yen. This thing's been a mover. So look at this. It's just messy, right? Just messy. But the thing that has stood true is it's not able to break above this monthly level. B boundary, it hasn't been able to break above. All the bouncing back and forth in this range, still giving strong reactions at that level, right? So now we're headed back down to this weekly support level that we haven't been able to break through either, right? At 159.997. Okay. Daily perspective, you get a closer view on this, right? It's just bouncing. It's really, really choppy, but when it gets to the top of this range, right, it moves back to the bottom of the range. And that's what we got happening here, right? We're pressing back down to the bottom of the range. You take the fib off, not look at it, right? Because it's just ranging sideways. So we're headed back down to the bottom of the range here, okay? We got some daily support levels. We'll shift that up to be that support level there at 160. And then you got your weekly level at 159.997. Okay, this is where I believe we're headed before we get another reaction, right? We got to keep our eyes on this zone, however, because it is a previous level of resistance, right? Right here. So we'll keep our eyes peeled here, but I do think these yens do push at least a little bit longer to the downside before we get another push to the upside. Okay, so we'll watch it and see how things play out overnight and into the morning, right? Depending on what happens with the pound as well. Okay, and maybe we see another push down and then a push back to the upside, a retest in the morning. Okay, but we broke back to the downside of this key level, right? We're sitting in the zone of resistance, and we'll have to wait and see how the market responds. Okay, so that's the daily look on the pound yen. We drop to the 4, right? You're coming into some key levels on the 4. Okay, you broke through that daily level, which was key, but we're still sitting in this resistance level at a 618 retracement. Okay, so the data is going to be key for us. The data is going to be key. Does it push the market higher, right? Come back to these highs and try to reach this D extension, or does the yen continue to pick up just a little bit of steam and press to the downside to get to this daily support level, potentially this weekly support level. Okay, so that's what we got to watch to see. But we broke below the cloud on the 4, and we got the lagging span below the cloud as well, and we got a retest. So we could be in for a little bit more movement to the downside. Okay, could be in for a little bit more movement to the downside. And here on the 1, little confluence of potentially more movement to the downside. Got a 50% retracement. Matching the extension is at 160, just above this daily level. Okay, so that's a signal also that we could continue down, at least in the short term. Okay, could continue down, at least in the short term. That's the pound yen. Any questions here? Clear. All right. And then we'll take a look at this New Zealand yen. And then we'll take a look at gold to wrap it up. New Zealand yen. It's on the run, just like the rest of them, right? To the downside. And this one, because you have your ultimate commodity currency and your ultimate safe haven currency, right? Giving us an indication of the risk on, risk off sentiment. Okay. And it's down, right? Pressing to the downside. So we'll see if we close firmly below this daily level here, right? This daily support where we saw a lot of consolidation. If we close firmly below that, we could be headed even further to this 82.097. Okay. So the close of this daily candle tomorrow, or for us in Eastern time is tomorrow, is going to be key to see if we get this nice continuation to the downside. Okay. Whoops. Stay there. On the 4, all right, this is my fib running to the downside. We didn't get that reversal that we would have liked to see here, right, off of the shallow retracement. We just continue to break down. So we hit the D extension on this fib to the downside on the 4. I believe, hold on. Run it from here. There we go. That's a better look. We hit the D extension there on the break of this daily level. It's a strong break on the 4. Okay. Could see a pullback, but that's a strong break on the 4. So we'll look for this to continue to the downside, even if we get a retracement to come back like that. Okay. Still look for the thing to turn back over, maybe retest that level, and then continue to the downside. Okay. So that's the 4. And then we drop to the 1. Those are our fibs running to the downside on the 1. Sitting in the 118 and 127 zone, but this could continue to press down. Even if we get a retracement, could continue to press down and get to that D extension before we see a reversal of any sort. Okay. So be patient with this New Zealand yen and allow it to continue to press to the downside. Okay. Allow it to continue to press. Love for it to get to that D extension, give us a new AB boundary. Questions on the New Zealand yen? No. All right. And let's take a look at gold real quick. I know we looked at it earlier. That's your S&P 500 down, right? Headed to 360. Headed to 360 off of a 50% retracement. Didn't get that deep retracement that I would have liked, but headed down nonetheless. Okay. Gold. Still hovering here. We didn't get that full push below that B boundary, right? But we got a strong push to the downside, stayed below this cluster. We're talking about to see if we get a pull back into it, right? We stayed there and we got a push to the downside. Those who dropped to the 4. Zoom out. Pressing down into that zone that we wanted to see. Okay. All right, 50% retracement. The extension is down here. Okay. So we press back below that weekly level, still hovering sideways. Okay, still hovering sideways. We'll see if we get this continuation to push deeper and at least get to the 4-hour D extension there. Okay. Pull those out. See if we get that push to the downside. And on your one, on the fib off the high. Still haven't gotten that 382 on the one. 118 and 127 is right in this zone. Okay. So could get another push into the zone to see if we then get a retracement and come back and retest this cluster that we're breaking to the downside to now. But ultimately, I think here we're still headed down overall. We come back to the daily time frame. I think we got more down movement here, at least down into these 1500 ranges. Could potentially get down to 1515 at some point, right? Especially if we continue to push lower and break out of this consolidation to the downside, right? Could head down to 1515, maybe this weekly support level at 1451, right? So I'm looking at gold continuing to the downside. Questions on gold?
Oh, it's looking good.
Cool. I actually want to look at this one too, just to see if it's still tracking. I can catch it. There we go. Still pressing to the downside. Look at there. Still making its way. Still making its way. Okay, coming into a double bottom scenario here. Maybe get a pullback, but I'm looking at this 15,000 level as the next zone. Then once we break and get to 19,000, if the S&P 500 gets to 360 or 3,600, I believe Bitcoin gets to 9,000. This 9,972 level, right? They're running pretty close to each other. So, yeah. But that's it. Any questions on anything that we covered this evening? No. All right, good people. So we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 a.m. Right? 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. We'll be back at it. Be patient, be patient, be patient. Allow the market to meet your rules before you enter your trades. Okay. Allow things to slow down after these rate statements. See where the market pushes to give you the ideal entry that you're looking for. Okay. Be patient. Don't try to catch them as it's happening, as the news is happening, but allow it to come to you. All right. So we'll see you in the morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
Thank you.